Mr. Butani is with us, and he's been taking us through, especially the tax structure and what this new tax structure is going to mean. We've talked a lot about the slabs and the change in that. But we also have an old tax regime, and we have this new tax regime, which the government seems to be encouraging now. Do you think there is an incentive for people to move to the new regime? Because it doesn't, include things like, your house rent exemption, etc., etc. So that's been something that still kept people with the old one.
Correct.
But what would you advise people to do?
Well, the underlying philosophy of giving an option to the taxpayer is to not take away what you have given up, but disincentivize them by saying that if you don't move to the new regime, then you will be taxed at a higher rate. So it's like a menu option that has been given to employed as well as self-employed. You pick and choose. I think either of the measures would not have been very popular if the government would have said that in our pursuit to simplify the tax system, not give away all these exemptions like housing and others you spoke about, then in that case taxpayers are not going to be happy. So it's a menu. But I think that from a medium to long-term standpoint, and if you look at the larger vision of a new direct tax code, all these exemptions could become history. The government may want to move to a more simplified rate structure. As you saw, the new rate structure is talking about someone with an income of 9 lakhs paying 45,000 rupees. So that's the simplification part. Now the figures that she read out, 9 lakh, 15 lakhs, and what is the savings of 20%, 25% are on an assumption that you're not claiming an exemption. So that seems to be the future direction. I just wanted to come on one more thing. Vipin spoke about the fiscal deficit. Yesterday in the economic survey, the chief economic advisor was a bit hesitant to give away whether he'll be able to meet the 4.5% fiscal deficit target in financial year 25-26. I think she seemed more confident today. But please bear in mind, it's predicated on tax collection. She's been able to meet the 4.6% fiscal deficit target this year only because of robust tax collection. Though the GST collections do not form part of the budget exercise, her corporate tax collections have been good. So bear in mind, she's making a very important assumption that for 2 fiscal years, this tax collection buoyancy that has been achieved both for GST and direct tax collection is going to continue for the next 2 years.
But does this budget do anything for, for example, exports, which have been on the decline, which has been a worry? And given the concerns about inflation, the depreciating rupee, where does this budget place us?
We will need to look at the fine print if there is anything for exporters, but I did hear her mention that her thrust on manufacturing is to encourage exports. So that's one statement that came out very positively. She also spoke about changes in the inverted duty structure. She mentioned about the toy industry and other aspects in order to encourage manufacturing. So there are 2 elements to it. One is how do you encourage manufacturing, and second is how do you make your manufacturing export competitive. I think that is really the big elephant in the room, because competitiveness of exports has been a challenge for Indian exporters, whether you look at textiles or you look at any other industry which are very export intensive. And an area where we have done very well is on the services side. But manufacturing, outside of specified manufacturing, we do have a challenge on making our exports competitive.
Nagma, did you have a question?
Would you say it's a balance between welfare and vikas? दोनों को उन्होंने balance करके रखा निर्मला सीतारमन ने. Welfare पे भी focus है, विकास पर भी focus है.
Yes, it's a very good motherhood statement to make, and hence the overall theme of the budget is there is something for everyone in the budget.
जी.